Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Rushan, and I'm going to be your presenter today. I want to ask, can you hear me? It would be fantastic if you could let me know if you're able to hear my voice right now, because that would tell me that I am live. I got a little chat there. You can just all right, CJ, chat to me in private. I can hear you, Dan. I'd love to hear one other person just sort of chat. Tell me who you are, where you're from, and that would be fantastic. And that would allow for me to know if we are live. So as soon as one other person gives me a little, hey, I'm here, then we'll go ahead and get started. This is a live webinar. It's February 25th, 2:02 p.m. Eastern Time. My name is Dan Roshan. Welcome to the presentation. And today I'm going to share with you how you can take listings every single month of the year, and how I took 67 listings in 2020 during a pandemic, and how you can do the same. So my mission is, during this presentation, is for us to strive together to mutually be able to show you how you can improve your business in a consistent and predictable way and take listings every single month of your career, and how you can do this without having to work 18 hours a day, go bang on doors, cold call, or even beg. Who wants to beg? Hopefully nobody raised your hands. Nobody. Hello, Hillary from South Jersey. I appreciate you joining us, and thank you for saying hello. So we're going to talk to you about today how to use CPI time, which is consistent predictable income, CPI time that results in ROI, how you can find new listings, how you can convert those to an appointment, and how you can implement the shock and awe listing presentation so that you can get hired at more than 75% of your listing appointments. And we're not talking about listing appointments with your cousin or your sister or your best friend. That should be at a 90, that should be at 100%. We're talking about listing appointments for maybe somebody that you've never met before. I do want a quick little promo here after the webinar. I do invite you to tune into the Consistent Predictable Income Community Podcast. I've been doing this show for about a year now. I've been able to have the privilege to be able to interview some of the top people in the industry. And we have conversations to understand how you can systematically find and convert buyers and sellers the very best, how you can achieve regular closings and paydays, and how you can have a plan to receive settlements month after month after month. So I interview some of the best in the industry, and I invite for you to join in, tune in. All right. So before we get started, I'm going to ask for you to take 3 pieces of paper and 1 pen or pencil. So 3 pieces of paper and 1 pen, because there's going to be a couple exercises I'm going to invite you to participate in, this being the first of them. And I promise you that when you participate in these exercises, you'll be positioned to be able to get the most out of this webinar, because certainly you're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so, you're going to intend to get the most out of this webinar. So I want you to write down right now, what is your goal of closings? How many closings do you want to have in the next 12 months? And then how many of those closings are going to be sellers? And how many of those closings are going to be buyers? How much money do you want to earn from those closings? How much did you earn last year? What's the gap? And hopefully there is a gap, because if there's not a gap, that tells me that you don't want to do better. And hopefully we all want to do better. And finally, do you have a plan to fill this gap? So, and I'm going to highly encourage for you to actually write this down, because when you do so, it will allow for you to speak to your subconscious mind to get the very best out of today's time. So what is your goal for closings in the next 12 months? How many buyers, how many sellers? How much money are you going to make from those closings? How much did you make last year? What's the gap? Do you have a plan to fill that gap? So that's on one of your 3 pages. I'm going to encourage for you to write that down. Now, if you have failed to take listings in the past, I want to let you know it is not your fault. This is a bar chart here. What is that bar? Not a bar. This is a line chart. My daughter's in the 4th grade, and she probably would scold me if I didn't know the difference between a bar chart and a line graph. Anyways, this demonstrates to you the listing inventory in the Mid-Atlantic area, which most of the United States is pretty congruent with this. Today, there's almost no listings available. You are probably already experiencing that. If you're representing buyers, you're probably having to write many, many offers. And if you are primarily a listing agent, as I am, you're probably taking less listings than what you have in the past. What I want you to reassure you today is that you can succeed despite what's going on around you, despite the circumstance. You could succeed. You just need to find and implement the right processes. And we're going to talk about those processes today. We're going to talk about having the key to having consistent and predictable income without having time or money or relationships fall through the cracks, right? Because what's the sense of having consistency in the business, in your business, if your relationships suck, if your money is, this isn't about closing the most amount of transactions. This is about keeping the most amount of money in your bank account. And again, not working 18 hours every single day, because certainly you don't want to work 18 hours a day. So who here does this look like your description of your job as a real estate agent? There's 1,000,001 things that you could be doing right now as an agent. And almost everything demands your time. Would you agree with me that that would be true? Feel free to interact. You can certainly chat with me in the chat box if you'd like to. 1,000,001 things to do in a real estate agent. Today we're going to talk about 5 of those 1,000,001 that are going to actually make you money, and we're going to talk about that at your CPI time. I want to let you know that before we get started, I want to thank you for being a part of this presentation today, because you're a part of the professional agent community. There are so many agents in our community. I don't know when you say community. There are so many agents in the marketplace who are unprofessional. Those are the agents that don't take the time to learn, don't take the time to develop, don't take the time to listen. And they make us, you and I, they make us look bad. They take our business down. That's not you, because you're taking the time to develop yourself. You are professional. There's a little sidebar. Certainly, we know that the Zillow right now is there's a big conversation about Zillow in the marketplace, in the agent marketplace. I'm not going to dive into that conversation today, except for a small little part right now, because there's a point not about Zillow that I want to make to you right now. And Zillow, who they started in their business in 2004, they promised for years and years and years. It is documented. We will never compete with the agent marketplace. We will never compete with agents. They promised that to us year after year, time after time, time after time. And guess what? They lied. Zillow doesn't have your interest at heart. They don't have my interest at heart. Guess who Zillow has interest? Zillow. Now, is that bad? Not necessarily. They're a business. Yet, what I want you to understand, and this again, not about Zillow, this is about you, that you do not need Zillow. You don't need any resources outside of what you already possess. And that is what is so, so important for you to understand. Regardless of what Zillow does, regardless of what anybody does, regardless of what your broker does, your competition, the marketplace, it does not matter, because you have the power within you. You have the ability within you to be able to succeed at taking listings through in this market. And I'm going to tell you how to do that today. Before we start, before we dive in, I want to talk about an elephant in the room. And that is, why would you take the time to, give a free webinar? You must want to sell us something. Well, at the end of this presentation, I will make you an offer because I do a lot of coaching. I help a lot of agents to be able to get them consistent, predictable income. But guess what? If what I have to offer at the end of this presentation is a good fit for you, then let's have a conversation with it. We'll set up a one-on-one. If it's not, use the next 45 minutes, take great notes. That's what that third piece of paper there's in front of you. And as long as you take great notes, you listen and you participate, I promise you that you're going to come out with some valuable information today. Why did you get into real estate sales? So that's a question I want to ask you. And I want you to actually answer that, whether you answer it out loud or you just answer it to yourself. But I want you to literally answer, why did I get into real estate sales? For many people, when I ask them that question, when I'm teaching this in a live room, they answer to me, money and freedom. That's the most common answer that people will say of why I got into real estate agent. But many people get into real estate for the money, which is available, and the perceived freedom, which is also available, yet so few ever actually obtain. This webinar today is for seasoned agents who you may not be sure that you can duplicate that payday every single month to get into that next level of stable income. And you may be thinking it was just, maybe you had your best month ever and you're thinking, well, that was just luck. And maybe you're riding that roller coaster of sales. I talked to a gentleman about 2 hours ago, and he's been in real estate for about 8 years. In fact, he's a broker, an associate broker. And he shared with me that he closes about one transaction and then 3 months, no transactions, and then about one transaction. And he's done that for about 7 or so years. One transaction, 3 months, zero, one transaction. That's about 4 or 5 a year that he's closing. That is a very inconsistent, unstable living. And that's not from judgment, right? That's just the reality, right? Like, we don't want that to happen. So if that's you, that's okay. We're going to talk about how to get into consistency. This webinar is for new agents who you may be like, yeah, I take lots of listings, whatever. I want to know, how do I even write a contract, right? Maybe you're afraid of, of being able to even do real estate sales. This webinar is for you, and it's for top producers so that you can participate in that life that you've already designed, that you've already created, so that you can actually enjoy the fruits of your labor. Congratulations for cracking the code. Now, let's stop working 18 hours a week and let's be able to reach your potential as a real estate agent so that you can have certainty in your future, so that you can have predictable paychecks month after month after month, and that you could be the very best potential, the very best version of yourself while reaching your potential and have significance. One last question Q&A thing here, or worksheet, and then we're going to jump into the live content. So I want you to take out your second piece of paper. I asked you to take 3 pieces of paper. One's going to be just for notes. One, hopefully you already wrote on it. And here's your second piece of paper. And again, I cannot emphasize enough for you to actually do this exercise. It's easy, it's short, it's painless, and it will pay you dividends. But I want you to ask yourself, have you reached your goals? And oftentimes when I ask that question, people are like, well, what are goals? My answer to that is yes. It doesn't matter. Personal goals, professional goals, job, family, faith, business, whatever's important to you, have you reached the goals that you intend to reach? Do you have the money that you desire right now? And are you living your potential? Do you need to do something maybe a little bit differently now than what you've done in the past? And if you don't do something different, what is the cost to you to not take action? Pardon me. Excuse me. Thank you. I know all of you said God bless you. Thank you for being polite. So, have you reached your goals? Do you have the money that you desire? Are you living your potential? Do you need to do something differently right now? What will it cost you to not take action? And if you haven't yet written the answers to that down, take a quick screenshot. You can do control print screen, take the screenshot and write those answers down because it's really vital for you to get the most out. A little bit about me. My name is Dan Roshan. I have been selling homes since 2007. I First 6 months of my career, I had sold 0 homes, big fat zero. And I remember going to my broker, Karen, this was years and years ago, and I said to her, I said, Karen, I can't do this. And Karen encouraged me to continue doing what I was doing because she said to me, Dan, you are on the verge of success. You just need to stick with it. You need to follow the plan. You need to follow the systems. You need to follow and have consistency in what you're doing. And I did what Karen had asked for me to do. This was April of 2008. April of 2009, this was 18 months after I had got my real estate license, I bought the brokerage that I worked for. Before I got into real estate sales, I was a waiter at a high-end steakhouse. And in fact, I was going through this life change at the time because I had just recently quit drinking. I was an active alcoholic in 2005. And I knew that if I didn't make a change in my life, that I was destined to, at the best, well, here's the reality. I was destined for death. I mean, I'm saying that like haphazardly, but that's what I was destined for. I didn't want that. Okay. So I made some changes. I got some coaching and I found a career, which is real estate sales, got licensed, had that conversation with Karen. 12 months after that conversation, I bought the brokerage. I owned that brokerage for the next 10 years. I sold it about 2 years ago. And at that time, I knew there was like a next stage of my life. I just didn't know what that stage of my life was. I had a lot of struggles at the time. Selling the brokerage wasn't a fun thing for me. I lost a lot of money in the transaction. I'd love to say that I made tons of money. I didn't. I fell flat on my face after 10 years is what happened. So I ended up having to sell that brokerage. And then I met with some mentors. They had asked for me to say, Dan, you've got a lot of knowledge. You got a lot to share. Go ahead and write it down. And that's when I wrote the book, Real Estate Evolution. I documented the steps during that, at the time, 12 or 13 years of what I did to have consistency in my business. Because though I feel as though if I failed as a brokerage owner, I succeeded as an agent, as a personal agent, like in my own outcome. And so I wrote that in the book, Real Estate Evolution. I know you're probably thinking right now, great for Dan. Who cares? I never want to own a brokerage. I never want to write a book. I just want to take a freaking listing. Well, that's enough about me. So now let's talk about you. Most agents, the way that they approach business is they do so without a roadmap. Okay, they do so without a plan. So the years that I've learned, but while either owning a brokerage, leading a brokerage, selling real estate on my own, what I've learned is that the traditional real estate agent, almost nobody actually follows a plan, uses a roadmap. Well, here's why that is dangerous. Here's why that is hard. Because if you don't follow a plan and you don't follow a process, then the results, the outcome's just going to be whatever the heck you get. Right? It's just going to be whatever it's going to be. And maybe that's great for you, or maybe that's not. But what we want is we want to be able to set up a business so that you can have predictability in your future. So if you ask me how to take listings, I'm going to give you 3 secrets today. And the first of those secrets of how to take listings, if you got nothing else out of this presentation today, this is the number one: time block. Making sure that you understand how to spend your time and then blocking for that time to be able to develop results. The number one thing. I identify 7 things in my life. You may want to write this down in your notes as well. 7 things in my life that I think are important to me. And they're probably pretty important to you as well. At least, if not all 7 of these, at least most of them. And I define them as my physical health, my personal life, my relationships, my finances, the money, my spiritual relationship, my business, and my job. And those are the big rocks in my life. And I find that those are probably, the big rocks in your life as well. Physical health, personal life, key relationships, finances, spirituality, business, and job. Now, of those 7, I'm going to talk to you about one of them, which is your job. As an agent, this is your job description, meaning that this is what gets you money. These 5 activities is what generates you results. This is what we call CPI time, consistent predictable income time. CPI time equals ROI. And those 5 activities to lead generate, to go on appointment, to get hired, to lead generate, to convert those appointments to appointment, to get hired, to negotiate contracts, and to script and role play. Those are the 5 things that pay you. And when you could take these 7 things here and these 5 things here, and you could schedule for them like this, and you can rinse and repeat, then you'll be in a position so that you can have a predictable outcome, so that you can have results. And I'm going to show you some of those results here in a moment. If you take a look at this calendar, you'll notice this is my calendar every single week of the year, except for the weeks that I take off. And I do take 4 weeks off a year. And the long weekends that I take 4-day weekends a year. And if you take a look at this, you'll see that there's lead generation in the green. And my job during that lead generation time is to fill in the blue boxes, the light blue boxes. That's my listing appointments. The time in the purple, that's for training. The job in the orange, that's for learning. And in the other grayish blue there at the top there is the power up. So that's in leading. That's in my leadership. Everything else is my own personal time. And so when you take a look at this, what many people, they sort of get freaked out. They're like, well, that looks like that's pretty damn strict. That looks like it takes a lot of discipline. Well, I wrote about that in my book, Real Estate Evolution. And you may have heard of author and podcaster Jocko Willink. He's a retired Navy SEAL, and he's a business developer. And in Real Estate Evolution, I state that Jocko says, while discipline and freedom seem like they sit on opposite sides of the spectrum, they're actually very well connected. Freedom is what everybody wants. By the way, remember, you probably got into real estate for freedom and money. So Jocko says freedom is what everybody wants, to be able to act and live with freedom. But the only way to get to a place of freedom is through discipline. If you want financial freedom, there's that money. You must have financial discipline. If you want more free time, you must follow a more disciplined time management system. So when you take a look at this, that is a disciplined time management system. And for some, they freak out on it. I get it. But guess what? What do you notice about my schedule? I'm not working evenings. I'm not working weekends, except for the mornings on Saturdays. And if I don't fill these 2 appointments, I take the entire Saturday off. If I don't fill these 4 appointments, then I fill in those blanks with green time, typically. So if I don't have an appointment at this time, guess what? I'm going to then fill that in with more lead generation, because that's my job, is to fill that time. That's one of the 5 things that pays me money. One of the biggest questions I get about the schedule here is, but how do I, there's that 1,000,001 things. I showed you that guy. Here's the deal. You may or may not be in a position today to be able to implement a schedule like this. However, when you understand that this is what's going to drive your business and make you money, and when you sit there and you have the viewpoint of, how do I take every single thing off my plate so that my time is spent doing those 5 activities. That doesn't mean, I mean, I haven't always been in the business where I only did the 5 activities. For many years, I did, much of that million and one things that we all have to do. Yet through time, I found ways to leverage things off through systems and people. And if you think that you can't afford to hire somebody that's talented, I have 15 virtual assistants. My staff of 15 virtual assistants cost me about the same as just a little bit more than 2 full-time assistants would cost me here in Northern Virginia. So it is very affordable to have a huge, amazing crew of people that I intend to help them develop in their lives and that they get the very best out of their lives. That's my job with them. They support me to have a schedule like this so that I have the time to be able to take 67 or 80 listings a year, so that I have the time to be able to coach and develop others to do the same. This is my last 5 years. 2020, 65 listings. It was actually 67, but there was 2 that hadn't booked yet. They booked in January. So 65 listings in 2020, 85 in 19, 50, 48, 55. You can see 30 million, 42, 21, 18 and 18. So you can see, is that, or maybe that's 16, 18 and 16. So you can see there's a consistency there of listings, and that's not my buyers. That's just the listings. Okay, month after month after month, that schedule that I just showed you generates listings. You want to know how to take listings month after month after month? Follow a schedule. It looks something like this right here. Follow a schedule. It looks something like this, where you take those 5 things right there. Take a screenshot of that if you haven't already written that down. And you take those 5 things and you put that into your CPI time and you focus your energy and your effort on that. Now, another thing that many people ask me is, well, what about if that $1 million buyer comes into town? What do? You control your schedule. When I was writing this webinar last month, I was lead generating. And as I was lead generating, I sent a text to a prospect. And I said, Chandler, hey, this is Dan. I'm touching base on you on this property here on Pine Hill Road. When's a good time for a quick conversation? He says, I'll be calling you at 11. Well, I'm not available at 11. So can I call you at 1 or 4? And he comes back and says, well, 12:30. Well, 12:30 worked for me, so I took it. So, but what did I not do? I did not sit there and say yes to the 11 because it didn't work for me. Because during my lead generating time, it's only outbound calls. That's it. I'm not going to take an inbound call. My lead generation stops at noon. I took the 12:30. Now you may sit there and say, well, but he's responded back to your initial inquiry. Yes, he is. So I did my job. I got the response. Guess what? I booked the appointment and I got the listing, by the way. Okay. This demonstrates to you that you don't have to be on beck and call. You just have to give options. If it's that $1 million buyer and they says, hey, I want to see that home at 9, most of our intuition is to say, oh, yeah, okay, I'll see you there. No. Hey, you know what? I can show it to you at 1 or I can show it to you at 4. Which is best for you? Not only will you do more business because they're going to respect you more because you're sought after, but you're also going to do more business because you control your schedule. Now, unless if you absolutely positively have no choice, like somebody's coming into town and they're only here for 3 hours, literally, and if you absolutely have to do that, then go ahead and erase it, put the appointment on. And if you go back to my schedule of those blue appointments, for example, I would have then just simply erased it from my green schedule and taken a blue spot, and that blue spot would have turned into a green spot. So if you have to erase it, and at the last case scenario would be erasing it, you should really, really resist erasing it. You should replace it. That should only be your last case resort. Otherwise, give them options that control your destiny. One of the things that Cullen, he's somebody that came to me March of 2020. And when I wrote this in January of 2021, when Cullen came to me, he had a really unique relationship with time. He was having a challenge to keep his time control, and his results were showing it. In fact, he had zero listings in March of 2020. He hired me as his coach. I coached him. We came up with a plan. Together we implemented that plan. And by the end of the year, not as buyers, he took 17 listings. That's 17 listings plus the buyers that he took. So from zero, from a place that he was feeling the pain, he was like, I am struggling here, Dan. I need to figure out a plan. I need to figure out a way. I need to be able to pay my bills because zero is not going to get it there. And he understood that being able to follow the time blocking, as I just described, was a foundational. And if Cullen can do it, so can you. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of a pause. Feel free to type away if you have some insight, some ahas, or some questions. I'm going to give you a second to type in any questions before I move on to the next strategy. Okay, secret number 2. So now that we time block, now that we know what CPI time is, now I'm going to ask for you to implement 2 strategies in your business. One short term, one long term. And the reason why you want to do one short term and one long term is because the long term is what's going to protect your business for the long haul. The long term strategy is going to put a moat around your business and protect against artificial intelligence, big data, technology, and commoditization, which is prevalent in the marketplace in everybody's businesses. There's just not real estate sales. The short term is something that's going to allow for you to eat today because you have to eat today. So you can't wait 18 months for the long term to pay you. That's why you need a short term and a long term. I want to talk to you about 3 short term strategies, and I'm going to talk to you about 3 specifically because these 3 are ones that that typically one of these 3 is going to work for most real estate agents. So I want to give you options because I'm not the type of coach who sit there and say, hey, go bang out the phone, go call expired listings. I don't believe in that. What I believe in is say, what is your God-given talent? What is your unique strength? Now let's take a look at that. Now let's freaking put that on steroids. Now let's just double, triple, quadruple, 10 times down on that. And let's freaking blow that up. Okay. But don't call expireds if you hate calling expireds. Do an open house instead. But here's 3 short-term strategies that you can consider. Short-term strategy number 1, for sale by owners. The reason why I say for sale by owners, let me teach you my for sale by owner class. If I was teaching like a for sale by owner class on how to take FSBOs, which we won't dive into too deeply today, here's my short version of the class. If I can introduce somebody to you that 100% wants to sell their house and has not yet hired an agent, would you want me to introduce him to you? That's the for sale by owner class, the end. Because who did I just describe? That's right. I just described a for sale by owner. So here's how you list for sale by owners. You list for sale by owners by not going to try to go get the listing. Oh, counterintuitive, right? Instead, you list for sale by owners. If you want to take 50 listings in the next 1 year, in the next 12 months, here's what you do. You go face to face, belly to belly, with one for sale by owner 5 days a week. And then you don't solicit the listing. Instead, you cultivate the relationship by contributing value and contribution to them, by showing them how they can sell on their own without you. Again, I know that that's a little bit counterintuitive, but here's what happens. When I go on 5 for sale by owner appointments this week, and then I follow up with them and I cultivate them and I help them. I say, hey, here's how you can sell your home on Facebook. Here's how you can do a Facebook advertisement on it. Here's how you do a Craigslist advertisement on it. Here's how you can, here's the documents that you're going to need. Here's how you can host an open house. And you help them to implement the strategies that you already know how to implement. And then you show that to them and you stay in relationship with these 5 after 3 weeks. One of these 3 will hire you. And then you go next week to a new 5 and you do the same thing with them. 3 weeks after that, one of those 5 will hire you. After 3 weeks, 1 a week will hire you. And if you want to get 50 listings in the next 53 weeks, that is a strategy that I would recommend that you consider to employ to be able to cultivate for sale by owners. It is a strategy that I promise you works in your market, works in any market, works in today's market, even with that inventory that's at an all-time low. How do I know it works? Because I'm doing it. I'm doing it in Northern Virginia, where the marketplace is like that many listings. There is no inventory here, but they're still for sale by owners, and they all don't want to sell on their own. A lot of them are very, very, like high egos. A lot of them are maybe looking for money, and then a few of them really do want an agent to help them. They just, they're just sort of testing out the market. So that's short-term strategy number 1. Feel free again to put any questions about anything that I'm sharing with you today in the chat. The next 2 strategies are actually buyer strategies. I know this is a listing class, yet I want to sit there and I want to share with you how you can, again, get consistent business month after month after month, whether it's a buyer or a seller. Open houses. If you are somebody that loves people, that people love, I'm going to recommend that you do open houses. I'm going to recommend that you do open houses on steroids, because remember, again, this is about doing things that, God has granted you, that you love people, people love you. So let's now benefit from that. So instead of doing 1 open house a month, guess what? Commit to doing 2 open houses a weekend, 3 weekends a month, not 4, 3. That's 6 open houses a month. Now, if you're really ambitious, you can go up to 8 or 10 or 12. That's what I would do, because I'm sort of ambitious. Yet, at least 6. You cannot tell me that when you do 6 open houses, because there's only 3 types of people that come to an open house. Who are they? They're the neighbors. Well, guess what? You got a 50% chance that they may be a listing prospect in the near future when the neighbors. So that goes back to your listings. You've got the buyers with an agent, and you've got the buyers without an agent. That's who you're looking for, or the neighbor that's listing in the future. So when you do 6 to 12 open houses a month, you cannot tell me that you cannot do a consistent, predictable income, a consistent, predictable business. You just need to follow a system. You need to do it every single weekend, twice, 3, 4 times a weekend, and follow that. The third strategy, if you hate strategy number 1, okay, don't do it. If you hate strategy number 2, okay, don't do it. Here's strategy number 3. And if you hate strategy number 3, don't do it either. Do something else here. But guess what? You can't say no to everything. You got to say yes to one of these. Strategy number 3, if I was starting in the marketplace today, and in fact, I did this in 2007 when I started with doing Craigslist ads for buyers. What we would do is we would do the Craigslist ads. We would put the hyperlink in there, advertise homes for sale. The buyer would click through. They would land on our website. We do a forced registration. We would capture their information. About 20% of it was Mickey Mouse and Chips Ahoy. About 80% of it was valid information. And of the valid information, we'd get in touch with maybe 20% of them. Well, either way, we ended up doing so much business just from Craigslist that you could sit there and just put a business on autopilot. It was one of the things that I did to be able to generate enough money in my month 6 to 18 to buy the brokerage that I worked for. It was to be able to implement that strategy and do so on a high volume. Now, you can't do that today because Craigslist changed their algorithm years and years ago, and you can't hyperlink on there. However, there's a better strategy than what we're doing, which is Facebook ads. So what you do instead is you advertise a property for sale, or a list of homes, or a list of foreclosures, or a list of luxury homes or best buys, and you advertise that on Facebook, and now you can start targeting general areas. And as you're advertising that on Facebook, you're capturing their information. Now, guess what? Most of that information that you capture is not going to be somebody that's ready to rock and roll today. In fact, only 1 out of 100 will. Yet, you can get for $2, you can get 1 lead. And for 1 out of every 100, you get a closing. So what does that mean for an investment? That means that for $200, Whatever your gross commission is per transaction, 5, 7, 8, 13, 10,000, 15,000, whatever it is, $200 will generate you that number. And you could do so in as little as 10 days to get the buyer into action simply by posting 10 ads every single day for 10 days. That's $20 of an ad spend for 10 days, which is manageable. And then you've got to follow up on 100% of those 100 leads, and one of them will go to closing. Now, if you then build a virtual team around you to then follow up with those, you could get 3 to 5 transactions within the next 18 months. That's hard to do as a single agent, though, without the support of the right systems and the right virtual staff to be able to support you with that. So that's strategy number 3 for your short-term strategy. Secret number 2, Jessica in Florida implemented this and she freaking crushed it. Secret number 2, long-term strategy. I'm going to recommend that you do your sphere of influence and that you follow up with them systematically. You follow up with them with a plan. And trust me, if Jessica, who she is such an amazing person, she's relatively new to real estate when we started working together, she did the open house plan and she is crushing it like clockwork. If Jessica do this as a relatively new agent, so can you. Sphere of influence would be who I'd recommend that you consider to do for your long-term strategy. That sphere of influence would position you so that you can systematically communicate with them. The best way to be able to get business from your sphere of influence, and this is your 18-month strategy, is to be able to say, let's say you have 150 people in your database. Let's say you have 100. You can get 10 transactions a year from 100 of a database. And if you had 100 of a database, guess what? That's only a phone call to 33 of them every single month. So that's like one a day if you're working a 7-day work week. So you can't tell me that one a day that you can't have one conversation with your database. But again, it has to come from value. It has to come from contribution. And you have to do it not 7 days a week, but you have to do it 5 days a week. So it'd actually be 2 conversations a day if your database was 100. If your database is 150, it's going to be 3 conversations a day. Now, if you don't know what to say to them, consider doing a client appreciation event. So client appreciation events that I've done in the past year, we did a Mass for Cause, which we raised money online to be able to generate items for homeless. We generated masks, hand lotion, or sanitizer rather, sanitary napkins and products for ladies, clothing, socks, whatever it was we that the homeless needed. We had our sphere of influence call into us on one day. They donated money. We got some vendors to be able to donate some prizes. We gave out some prizes of a 23andMe. We gave out some Dr. Dre Beats headphones. We gave out some really cool prizes. They were all donated. And we were able to have a good event to be able to contribute to the community. And at the same time, we had a reason to call our sphere of influence. So it's a very easy call to make, but you have to do so with a system. I use a program called, it used to be called Banner Season. They just changed it. We mail to 50 people every single month. That's our top people. We have a top people of 150, and we mail 50 to the A's on 1 month, 50 B's, 50 C's, and we keep doing that month after month after month. And then we invite them to our client appreciation events, and we do video marketing to them as well. It's all done on a system. And I go through that system, by the way, in Real Estate Evolution. If you're looking to actually emulate that, I encourage for you to get the book. Jeff talked to us about how he was able to implement these systems and how he was able to figure out that while you're doing the most in the least, is that we realize that you can build a consistent income doing just the 2 or 3 things that you love to do, and stop trying to force the activities that don't align with you. So don't call expireds if you hate calling expireds. If you're like me, I'll call expireds all day long. Guess what? I hate doing open houses. All right. So I'm not going to do open houses. So do what you love to do. So that is secret number 2, implement a strategy. I'm going to stop here again. What questions, what ahas that you have? I'd love to hear back from you. Feel free to chat in there and any ahas, any questions, anything that you have. I'd love to hear it. Okay. Secret number 3, use a system. When I wrote Real Estate Evolution, uh, I'm sorry, when I wrote this webinar, rather, and I looked back at the book Real Estate Evolution for some inspiration, I Googled the word. I looked it in the Word doc for the word success in Real Estate Evolution. I found out that I used the word success 117 times. I said, okay, well, that leaves some clues. Maybe I have some success to talk about in the webinar. So then I looked up the word failure. Guess what? I found the word failure 17 times. Wow. I've certainly failed more times than that. And so then I looked up the word learn or teach or learning. And there was more than 200 times that I used the word learn or a variation of it. And what I realized was that what I was doing during all these years of developing this proprietary systems that I developed and that I describe in the book Real Estate Evolution was that I was actually failing and then figuring out what did I do that caused a result that I didn't want to cause. And I documented that in that book. And once upon a time, you may be like me, where I put everything on my shoulders. I put everything on my shoulders. And I thought that my job was to conquer the world. What I found was that when I could follow the systems, then I would be in a position that I could be able to create predictable results. And these are the listings, not the buyers, but these are where the listings my last year where they came from. 16 from my sphere, 17 from my, or 7, excuse me, from my networking. Those are about the same, but there's a specific networking group that I do. That's why I divide that out. 7 cold call, my 3 open houses. Those are listings, not the buyers from the open houses. 5 Facebook ads. Again, the listings, not the buyers. 2 expired, 8 FSBOs, and 19 from the internet lead generator providers. And these are the systems that I use in my system. Flourish. I want to give you a way to flourish right now, because what we know is that the way that we approach the world is the way that we are going to cause results. And if you want to cause massive results, I actually, this part of the flourish was originally at the first part of this class, but I found that people wanted more meat because they didn't actually say, well, that was important, right? But guess what? This is more important than even following a schedule. It's about flourishing. It's about being the best part of you possible. Okay. And here I'll give you a very, very specific. I want you to write this down. I want you to write like in a clock real quick. And I want you to write in that clock at the top, I want you to put programming and then an arrow to the right. Programming leads to the thoughts. And then an arrow from about 3 o'clock to about 5 o'clock. Programming, thoughts, feelings. And then over here about 7 o'clock, actions. And then about 9 o'clock, or about 10 o'clock rather, results. So programming, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. And then the results, there's going to be another arrow going back to programming. So you should have what looks like a clock, and there's an arrow pointing in between each of those now. And so what does that mean? That is a life hack. If you want to get the very, very best out of your life, then what you want to do is you want to be able to take a look at that, and I'm going to show you how to hack it. Now, that is a closed loop. So what most people do is they end up getting the same results time and time and time and time and time again. You may be in that position. I've been in that position in the past. Yet, how do you get a different result and get outside that loop? Because if you think about it, the programming is where you can change the results. Because what is programming right now? If you're watching the news all day long, do you have great thoughts in your head or crappy thoughts in your head? Probably crappy thoughts. If you have crappy thoughts in your head or programming in your head, you're going to have crappy thoughts. And if you have bad thoughts, then how are you going to feel? You're going to feel bad. And if you feel bad, what type of actions are you going to take? I saw a lady on Facebook the other day just flipping out, right? And I'm just sitting there thinking about it this morning, actually. I'm like, wow. She was flipping out because she had to wear a mask. And whatever you believe in regards to wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, I respect you. Okay. You don't have to like feel any way about it. You can either choose to do it or not do it. Or if the environment says you have to do this, you could choose to be a part of the environment or not. But somewhere or another, there was some bad programming there that's leading to some bad thoughts, that's leading to some bad feelings, that's leading to some bad actions. And guess what? Bad actions produce bad results. And then that feed back into the programming. So if you want to hack this, it's around there in that programming piece. So the way that you can change your programming, or the way that you can program, is by the people that you hang out with. It's by meditation, affirmations. It's by taking great podcasts or webinars like this. Listen to great podcasts like the Consistent Predictable Income Community Podcast. It is it's reading the book Real Estate Evolution. You can get your, hey, here's my plug. You get your for $10, which to pay to ship it to you. Go to www.therealestateevolution.com. And you can get a version of that book. It's 279 pages that go through every single one of these steps. So that's how you can hack Flourish. Step number 2, looking for leads. There's systems to look for leads. Step 3, I missed step 3. Step 3 is to convert the leads. It's not on my presentation, but it is to convert the leads. Step 4, or convert the leads to appointments. Step 4 is to nail your presentation. Step 5 is to get hired. Step 6 to connect with the buyer, with the seller. And I'm missing some more steps on here. My goodness gracious, I'm going to have to make sure that we get those in there. So connect the buyer with the seller. Step number 7 is to go to closing. Step number 8 is to get reviews and testimonials. Good thing I know the author of the book, so I have it memorized. Step number 9, build, support, and guide your team. So step number 9 is we talked about that virtual assistant team. Those 15 virtual assistants that I have, there's actually a system to hire, just like everything else. There's a system that do every single thing in your business. And if you want to learn more about that system, I highly encourage for you to get a version of the book, therealestateevolution.com, where you can pick up your version, your copy for less than $10. Here are those steps that are outlined one by one. So you've got step 1, flourish, look for leads, focus on the conversion, nail your presentation, get hired, connect the buyer with the seller, clear the pathway for closing, have others sing your praises, build, support, and guide your team, and choose profit. Because we do want to have profit, I hope. Now, you might be thinking right now, well, that's a whole great and dandy, but that seems like a whole bunch to me to do. And it is. Yet, when you break it down into bite-sized chunks, into bite-sized pieces, and you're able to follow a system, anybody can do it. You can do it. You just need to follow it into small steps. You just need to know what those small steps are. And the key to getting listings every single month is to follow those systems. And if you are interested in having listings, I showed you my numbers. I showed you, what was it, 65, 55, 85, 88. I don't remember what it was, but it was like between the lowest in the last 5 years was 55 and the highest was 88, I think. The most listings I took in 1 year was 109. None of those are REOs, by the way, right? So it's not like institutional listings. Those are listings. I mean, REOs are listings as well. And I did do those way back in the day, right? But those are every one of those listings came on a one-on-one sales appointment with me by following a system, by getting hired more than 75% of the time. If you want to sit there and you want to have a conversation with me on a one-on-one call, I encourage for you to book this right now. Visit www.thecpicommunity.com/call. And you and I, it'll be me. I'll have a 45-minute conversation with you. I just got off a phone conversation with another agent literally like 15 minutes before I started talking on this. And we came up with a strategy, and we talked about the way that I can lower the ladder to him rather than him having to climb up the ladder. You don't want to have to climb up the ladder. Instead, we want to be sure that we are lowering the ladder to you. Okay. And so as we lower that ladder to you, will show you how you can follow the systems. And I've got programs for zero budgets to higher budgets and higher goals. And it works for any agent, seasoned, new, top producing. I've coached agents that have been licensed for a month to agents that have been licensed for 20 years and been able to take these agents and allow for them to realize consistent and predictable income. And I'm encouraging for you to right now set up that appointment with me, set up that phone call one-on-one. I'll answer your questions. This is for seasoned agents, new agents, and top producing agents. And I'll be able to help you come up with a plan that we can achieve success together to make this a better marketplace for all the real estate agents in our marketplace, for you specifically, so that regardless of where you're at, regardless of what your goals are, if you're at zero like Cullen was last year and you want to take 17 in the next year, or if you were at a half a dozen like Jessica was, and you want to get to 36 in the next year, or if you're at 36 and you want to get to 100, or 100 you want to get to 200, wherever you are in your business, there is a system that's already been documented, that's already been proven, tested, and proven for success that you can follow, that you could be able to achieve the goals that you desire. So I encourage you again right now, visit www.thecpicommunity.com/call. As Zig Ziglar, one of my greatest privileges in my life was to be able to visit with Zig Ziglar years ago before he passed away. And the great Zig Ziglar says, you do not have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And I encourage for you to listen to Mr. Ziglar. He is so correct about that. You don't need to be great to start. You have to start right now to be great. And you already know, because you wrote it down, what the cost of not taking action is. So look back at your notes and hopefully you answer that question and you already know what not taking action is going to cost you. So thank you very much. If you have some questions, I'll hang out here for a few minutes. Otherwise, have the best day of your life. Be grateful, make good choices, and help somebody today. That's my encouragement to you. Thank you very much. What questions do you have? All right, guys, take care. Thank you.